If you feel the sting, the burn inside when you see good befall another, if their joy becomes a shadow in your own heart, then this message, it is for you. Hasad, envy. It is a fire that consumes the one who carries it more than the one it is directed towards. Think about it. When someone receives a blessing, wealth, success, happiness, what changes for you truly? Nothing except what stirs within your own chest. That discomfort, that feeling of lack, it originates not from their gain, but from within your own self. It is a test, this life. And the blessings that others receive, they are also a part of this test. Your reaction to it reveals much about the state of your own heart. Do you find peace in knowing that the provider is the most just, the most wise, that he distributes as he wills for reasons we may not always comprehend? The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, beware of envy, for it consumes good deeds just as fire consumes wood. Reflect on this profound wisdom. This feeling, this hasad, it doesn't diminish what the other person has, but it eats away at your own spiritual earnings. Your prayers, your acts of kindness, they can be lessened. Their light dimmed by this darkness in the heart. So, what is the remedy? Firstly, recognize it. Acknowledge the feeling when it arises. Don't let it fester in the shadows. Then turn to the one who can truly heal. Make sincere dua. Ask for a pure heart free from such ailments. And instead of focusing on what others have, focus on what you have been given. Count your blessings. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to envy. When you truly appreciate what you possess, the allure of what others have begins to fade. Make an effort to rejoice in the happiness of others. Train your heart to see their success as something beautiful, a testament to the bounty of the Almighty. This shift in perspective, it is not easy, but it is a path towards inner peace and a heart pleasing to Allah. Remember, your journey is unique, your trials are specific to you, and so too are your blessings. Comparing your path to another's will only lead to dissatisfaction. Strive to be the best version of yourself, to grow in goodness, and to find contentment in what Allah has decreed for you. If you are a victim of hasad, the one who feels it know that you have the power to overcome it. Turn inwards, seek refuge in Allah, and cultivate gratitude. This is the way to protect your heart and your good deeds from being consumed. Envy or hasad is a deeply corrosive emotion, one that gnaws away at the very core of the individual who harbors it. It is not merely a fleeting feeling of wanting what someone else possesses. It is a more insidious and destructive sentiment, a resentment of their good fortune, a desire that they should lose what they have, or at the very least, that you should attain something comparable. This internal turmoil, this constant comparison and feeling of lack becomes a self-inflicted wound, a persistent source of unhappiness that overshadows any potential joy in one's own life. Consider the analogy of fire consuming wood. Just as flames relentlessly devour timber, reducing it to ash and smoke, so too does envy relentlessly erode the inner peace and spiritual well-being of the envious person. The object of their envy, the one who possesses the desired trait or blessing, may remain completely unaware of this internal battle raging within the other. Their joy, their success, their contentment, these are the very things that fuel the fire of hasad in the envious heart. It is a peculiar and tragic irony. The envious suffers intensely, often in solitude, while the envied may continue to enjoy their blessings unburdened by this negativity. The focus of the envious mind becomes fixated on the external, on the perceived advantages of others. This outward gaze distracts from the internal landscape, preventing the individual from appreciating their own unique gifts and blessings. Instead of nurturing contentment and growth within themselves, their energy is channeled into a negative preoccupation with the lives of others. This constant comparison inevitably leads to feelings of inadequacy and resentment, creating a vicious cycle where the more one envies, the less capable they become of recognizing and valuing their own worth. Furthermore, envy can be a significant barrier to personal and spiritual progress. When the mind is consumed by negative thoughts and desires related to others, there is little space left for positive reflection, for gratitude, or for the pursuit of one's own goals. The envious person may find themselves spending more time dwelling on the achievements of others than working towards their own. This stagnation, this inability to move forward further exacerbates the feelings of envy, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of negativity and stagnation. The Prophet Muhammad's peace be upon him highlighted the destructive nature of envy with stark clarity, comparing it to a fire that consumes good deeds. This is a profound warning. All the efforts one makes in acts of worship, in kindness, in striving for righteousness, can be diminished, even nullified, by the presence of envy in the heart. It acts as a spiritual pollutant, contaminating the purity of one's intentions and actions. The outward displays of piety may be present, but the inner reality is marred by this corrosive emotion. The damage inflicted by envy is not limited to the spiritual realm. It also affects one's mental and emotional health. The constant state of dissatisfaction and resentment can lead to anxiety, stress, and even depression. The inability to find joy in the success of others creates a sense of isolation and negativity, impacting relationships and overall well-being. The envious person becomes trapped in a self-made prison of negativity, their perspective skewed by their preoccupation with what others have. In essence, envy is a self-destructive force. It punishes the one who feels it far more than the one who is the object of it. It clouds judgment, hinders progress, and erodes inner peace. It is a thief that steals joy and contentment from the life of the envious, leaving behind a residue of bitterness and dissatisfaction. Recognizing this inherent self-harm is the first step towards liberation from its grip. Understanding that the pain of envy is primarily felt by the envier can be a powerful motivator to seek a healthier and more positive way of relating to the successes and blessings of others. The focus then shifts from the external object of envy to the internal state of the heart, prompting a desire for inner purification and a release from this debilitating emotion. The blessings that others receive are not merely random occurrences. In a broader spiritual context, they can be viewed as tests, both for the recipient and for those who witness them. For the one receiving the blessing, be it wealth, health, a loving family, or success in their endeavors, the test lies in how they utilize that blessing. Will they be grateful? Will they use it responsibly? Will they acknowledge the source of the blessing and use it in a way that is pleasing to the divine? Will they be humble and recognize that all good ultimately comes from a higher power? Their reaction to the favor bestowed upon them reveals their character and their connection to something greater than themselves. However, the blessings bestowed upon others also serve as a profound test for those who observe them. This is where the challenge of envy often arises. When we see someone else thriving, achieving, or simply experiencing joy, our immediate reaction can reveal the state of our own hearts. Do we genuinely feel happy for them? Do we acknowledge the good that has come their way without any feelings of resentment or lack? Or does their good fortune trigger within us a sense of unease, a questioning of our own circumstances, or even a desire for them to lose what they have? This reaction, our response to the blessings of others, is a significant indicator of our inner spiritual condition. A heart free from malice and envy will naturally rejoice in the happiness of others. It will recognize that the divine bestows favor as He wills, and there is wisdom in His distribution. Such a heart finds peace in this understanding and does not feel diminished by the success or happiness of another. Instead, it may even be inspired by it, using it as motivation for personal growth and positive action. Conversely, a heart harboring envy will struggle with the blessings of others. It will find it difficult to genuinely celebrate their achievements and may even harbor negative thoughts or feelings towards them. This internal conflict is a form of self-inflicted trial. The envy itself becomes a burden, a source of inner turmoil that disrupts peace and contentment. The test, in this case, is whether the individual can overcome these negative feelings, purify their heart, and learn to view the blessings of others with a positive and accepting perspective. The wisdom behind this dynamic is multifaceted. Firstly, it highlights the interconnectedness of the community. How we relate to one another, including our reactions to each other's fortunes, shapes the overall spiritual and social fabric. Envy breeds negativity and can lead to harmful actions and words, while genuine goodwill fosters harmony and mutual support. Secondly, it underscores the importance of focusing on our own journey and our own relationship with the divine. Getting caught up in comparing ourselves to others and coveting what they have distracts us from our own path of growth and gratitude. The test presented by the blessings of others is an invitation to turn inwards, to examine our own hearts, and to cultivate contentment with what we have been given. Furthermore, these external blessings can serve as a reminder of the divine's power and generosity. Recognizing that all good comes from Him should foster humility and a sense of reliance on Him rather than resentment towards those who are the recipients of His favor. The test, therefore, is also about our faith and our understanding of the divine will. In conclusion, the blessings bestowed upon others are not isolated events. They are integral parts of the larger tapestry of life, serving as tests that reveal the inner workings of our hearts. Our reaction to them, whether it is one of genuine joy and acceptance, or one tinged with envy and resentment, speaks volumes about our spiritual state and our understanding of the divine order. This perspective encourages us to approach the successes and happiness of those around us with grace, recognizing them as opportunities for self-reflection and growth. The insidious nature of envy extends beyond merely causing internal discomfort. It actively diminishes the spiritual rewards and merits earned through good deeds. Imagine diligently striving to perform acts of worship, to be kind and compassionate to others, to engage in charitable giving, and to cultivate virtuous qualities. These actions are intended to draw one closer to the divine, to purify the soul, and to accumulate spiritual capital. However, the presence of envy in the heart acts as a corrosive agent, eroding the value and impact of these very good deeds. Consider the analogy of a beautiful garden meticulously cultivated with care and effort. Flowers bloom, fruits ripen, and the air is fragrant with the scent of growth. But if a toxic weed like envy is allowed to take root and spread, it will choke the life out of the other plants, hindering their growth and diminishing the overall beauty and yield of the garden. Similarly, the good deeds performed by an individual can be stifled and their spiritual benefit lessened by the presence of envy within their heart. The purity of intention is a cornerstone of spiritual practice. When an act of goodness is performed with a sincere desire to please the divine, without any ulterior motives or negative feelings towards others, its spiritual weight is significant. However, if the heart is tainted with envy, even outwardly virtuous actions can be compromised. For instance, one might give in charity, but if the underlying motivation is to outdo someone else or to feel superior, the spiritual reward is diminished. The act itself may appear good on the surface, but the impure intention, fueled by envy, detracts from its true value. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, likened envy to a fire that consumes wood. This powerful imagery underscores the destructive capacity of this emotion. Just as fire relentlessly burns through wood, leaving behind only ashes, so too does envy relentlessly consume the spiritual earnings of an individual. The time and effort invested in good deeds can be effectively negated by the presence of envy in the heart. This is a profound warning, highlighting the critical importance of purifying one's inner self from such negative emotions. Furthermore, envy often leads to other negative behaviors such as backbiting, gossiping, and even actively seeking to harm the object of one's envy. These actions not only further diminish one's own spiritual standing, but also incur negative consequences. The web of negativity spun from envy can entangle the envious person in a cycle of harmful thoughts, words, and deeds, further eroding their spiritual well-being. The focus of the envious person is often directed outward, fixated on the perceived advantages of others. This external focus distracts from the internal work required for spiritual growth. Instead of concentrating on self-improvement, on cultivating humility and gratitude, the envious individual is consumed by resentment and a desire for what others possess. This misdirection of energy and attention hinders their own spiritual progress and diminishes the impact of any good deeds they might perform. The erosion of good deeds by envy is not always immediately apparent. One might continue to perform acts of worship and engage in charitable activities, unaware of the silent destruction occurring within their heart. This makes envy particularly dangerous, as its detrimental effects can be subtle yet profound. It underscores the necessity of constant self-reflection and introspection to identify and address any traces of envy that may be lurking within. In essence, envy acts as a spiritual tax, diminishing the returns on one's good deeds. It taints the purity of intention, fuels negative behaviors, and distracts from the path of spiritual growth. Recognizing this destructive capacity is crucial for anyone seeking to cultivate a strong and meaningful connection with the divine. Striving to purify the heart from envy is not merely about avoiding a negative emotion. It is about safeguarding and maximizing the spiritual rewards earned through one's efforts in righteousness. The battle against envy is, therefore, a vital aspect of the broader spiritual journey. The initial and perhaps most crucial step in overcoming the affliction of envy is the simple yet profound act of recognition. To acknowledge its presence within oneself, to identify the subtle or not so subtle stirrings of resentment, the pangs of dissatisfaction when witnessing the good fortune of others. This is the necessary first move towards healing. Envy often operates in the shadows, a quiet undercurrent of negativity that can easily be rationalized or dismissed. We might tell ourselves that our feelings are merely a desire for something better for ourselves, masking the underlying resentment towards someone else's attainment. Therefore, a conscious and honest self-assessment is required. When you hear of someone's success, what is your immediate reaction? Is it genuine happiness for them? Or is there a subtle twinge of unease, a questioning of your own circumstances, perhaps even a fleeting thought wishing you had what they do? These subtle indicators can be the early signs of envy taking root. Ignoring them allows it to fester and grow stronger, making it more challenging to address later. Acknowledging envy is not about self-condemnation or dwelling in guilt. Rather, it is an act of self-awareness, a courageous step towards identifying an internal obstacle that hinders one's peace and spiritual growth. Just as a doctor cannot treat an ailment that is not acknowledged, so too can we not begin to overcome envy until we first recognize its presence within us. This requires a degree of vulnerability and honesty with oneself, a willingness to confront the less palatable aspects of our inner landscape. Once recognized, the feeling should not be suppressed or ignored. Instead, try to understand its roots. What specifically triggers this feeling? Is it someone's wealth, their success in a particular field, their happy family life? Identifying the specific triggers can provide valuable insights into one's own insecurities and desires. This understanding can then be used to address the underlying issues rather than just the symptom of envy. The act of acknowledging also involves naming the feeling. Instead of vague discomfort or generalized dissatisfaction, labeling it as envy brings it into sharper focus. This act of naming can create a sense of distance, allowing one to observe the emotion rather than being completely consumed by it. It's a step towards taking control rather than being controlled by the feeling. Furthermore, acknowledging envy can be a turning point towards seeking help, both from within and from a spiritual perspective. Once we admit to ourselves that we are struggling with this emotion, we become more open to finding ways to overcome it. This might involve introspection, prayer, seeking guidance from religious teachings, or even confiding in a trusted individual. The alternative to acknowledging envy is to remain in a state of denial, allowing it to silently erode one's happiness and spiritual well-being. This denial can manifest in various ways, such as downplaying the achievements of others, finding fault in their blessings, or focusing solely on one's own perceived shortcomings. These defense mechanisms, while seemingly protective, ultimately perpetuate the cycle of envy and prevent genuine inner peace. Therefore, the simple act of honestly saying to oneself, "Yes, I feel a tinge of envy in this situation," is a powerful first step. It is the opening of a door towards healing and growth. It is the recognition of a problem that needs to be addressed, not ignored. This self-awareness, this willingness to confront an uncomfortable truth about oneself, is the foundation upon which the process of overcoming envy can be built. It is a testament to one's commitment to personal and spiritual development, a recognition that true contentment comes not from wishing away the blessings of others, but from cultivating a pure and grateful heart within oneself. The journey away from envy begins with this honest self-assessment. A potent antidote to the corrosive effects of envy is the conscious and consistent practice of gratitude. When our focus shifts from what we perceive we lack to the abundance of what we already possess, the sting of envy begins to lose its power. Cultivating gratitude involves actively recognizing and appreciating the blessings in our own lives, both big and small. It is a deliberate turning of our attention towards the positive aspects of our existence, fostering a sense of contentment and satisfaction with our own circumstances. The act of counting one's blessings can be a transformative practice. Instead of dwelling on what others have, their wealth, their talents, their relationships, we intentionally direct our thoughts towards the gifts we have been given. This could include our health, our family, our skills, our opportunities, even the simple joys of daily life. Making a mental or even a written list of these blessings can bring into sharp focus the richness that already exists in our lives, often overlooked when we are preoccupied with what others possess. Gratitude fosters a sense of abundance rather than scarcity. Envy often stems from a feeling of lack, a belief that there isn't enough to go around, or that others have unfairly received more than we have. However, when we cultivate gratitude, we recognize the inherent abundance in our own lives, shifting our perspective from one of deficiency to one of sufficiency. This shift can significantly diminish the feelings of envy as we become more attuned to the blessings we have rather than fixated on what we lack in comparison to others. The practice of gratitude also encourages a more positive outlook on life. When we regularly focus on the good things, we tend to become more optimistic and resilient. This positive frame of mind makes us less susceptible to the negative emotions associated with envy. A grateful heart is often a more joyful heart, less easily swayed by the perceived advantages of others. Furthermore, gratitude promotes humility, recognizing that the blessings we have are gifts, often beyond our own making, fosters a sense of humility and dependence on a higher power or simply on the kindness of others. This humility is the antithesis of the pride and resentment that often accompany envy. When we are grateful, we are more likely to acknowledge the source of our blessings and less likely to feel entitled or resentful of the blessings bestowed upon others. Cultivating gratitude is not a passive exercise. It requires conscious effort and intention. It involves taking the time to notice and appreciate the good things in our lives, even amidst challenges. It can be as simple as acknowledging a beautiful sunrise, expressing thanks for a kind gesture, or appreciating the comfort of one's home. Over time, this deliberate practice can transform our mindset, making gratitude a more natural and ingrained response. The benefits of gratitude extend beyond just mitigating envy. Studies have shown that gratitude is linked to increased happiness, improved health, stronger relationships, and greater resilience. By focusing on what we have, we enhance our overall well-being, making us less vulnerable to the negative impact of comparing ourselves to others. In essence, cultivating gratitude is a powerful way to reframe our perspective. It shifts our focus from external comparisons to internal appreciation. By recognizing and valuing our own blessings, we create a buffer against the feelings of envy that arise from focusing on the perceived advantages of others. This internal shift towards gratitude fosters contentment, peace, and a greater appreciation for the richness that already exists within our own lives. It is a journey from a mindset of lack to one of abundance, a key step in freeing ourselves from the grip of envy. Training the heart to genuinely rejoice in the happiness of others is a profound and transformative practice, a direct counterpoint to the negativity of envy. When we can witness the success, joy, and blessings of those around us and feel a genuine sense of happiness for them, it signifies a heart that is becoming purified from the corrosive influence of hasad. This ability to share in the positive experiences of others fosters connection, cultivates empathy, and ultimately enriches our own lives. The initial step in this training involves a conscious shift in perspective. Instead of viewing the successes of others through the lens of our own perceived shortcomings, or desires, we actively choose to see their achievements as something positive in and of themselves. Their gain does not inherently equate to our loss. Recognizing this fundamental truth is crucial in dismantling the envious mindset. This shift requires a degree of emotional maturity and a conscious effort to overcome the natural inclination to compare ourselves to others. Comparison often fuels envy, leading us to focus on the differences between what they have and what we lack. Rejoicing in their happiness, on the other hand, encourages us to focus on the shared human experience of joy and achievement. Their happiness becomes a source of positivity in the world, something to be celebrated rather than resented. Cultivating this ability can start with small, deliberate acts. When someone shares good news, make a conscious effort to offer sincere congratulations and express genuine happiness for them. Pay attention to your internal reaction. If there is a flicker of envy, acknowledge it without judgment, and then consciously redirect your thoughts towards the positive aspects of their experience. Over time, this practice can reshape our emotional responses. What initially requires conscious effort can gradually become a more natural and automatic reaction. As we repeatedly choose to celebrate the happiness of others, our hearts become more attuned to positive emotions and less susceptible to the negativity of envy. Rejoicing in the happiness of others also fosters stronger relationships. When people sense that we genuinely care about their well-being and celebrate their successes, it builds trust and strengthens bonds. Envy, on the other hand, creates distance and can lead to strained or even broken relationships. By choosing to be happy for others, we contribute to a more positive and supportive social environment, which ultimately benefits us as well. From a spiritual perspective, rejoicing in the blessings of others aligns with the principles of compassion and goodwill. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of empathy and of wanting good for others as we want it for ourselves. Cultivating this mindset purifies the heart and draws us closer to higher values. It's important to distinguish between genuine happiness for others and simply pretending to be happy. True rejoicing comes from a sincere place within. If there is underlying resentment, it will likely manifest in subtle ways. The goal is to cultivate a genuine feeling of joy when others experience positive things. This training also involves recognizing that the blessings bestowed upon others do not diminish our own potential for good or for receiving our own blessings. Life is not a zero-sum game. Someone else's success does not preclude our own. In fact, being happy for others can often create a more positive and supportive environment that can indirectly benefit us as well. In conclusion, consciously training our hearts to rejoice in the happiness of others is a powerful antidote to envy. It requires a shift in perspective, a deliberate effort to focus on the positive, and a commitment to cultivating empathy and goodwill. Over time, this practice can transform our internal landscape, leading to greater inner peace, stronger relationships, and a more positive and fulfilling life. It is a journey from a self-centered focus to a more expansive and compassionate way of being in the world.